Let's talk to Gulshan Chowdhry, chair of the British Pakistani Christian Association, whose own family has suffered as a result of these attacks. What can the authorities do to protect Christians more?
Well, firstly, they need to take the advice of groups that provide them with help. For instance, the British Pakistani Christian Association has been warning the Pakistani High Commission of the increased tension around the hanging of Mumtaz Chowdhry. Threats have been made to Christian communities. Mumtaz Chowdhry was the man who assassinated former governor of Punjab, Salman Taseer.
Who was campaigning against the blasphemy laws.
Indeed, and he also called for better protection of Christians, in particular Asia Bibi, the long-term blasphemy victim.
So were you advising then the Pakistani authorities not to hang Chowdhry?
No, quite the opposite. We feel that justice has to be served because it removes the impunity. But we felt that during the Easter celebrations, where Christians were going to be at high risk, that there should have been better protection of the churches and of the venues which Christians went to celebrate afterwards.
But it's not just Christians who go to this park. This is a huge park, isn't it? 67, 70 acres big. It's not just used by Christians. How can the authorities realistically provide protection there?
Well, they should firstly ensure that those that are putting on these events have adequate security provision themselves. There was no perimeter fencing. There was very few security officers. I've been told that at the gates had absolutely...
But that's because it wasn't a particular Christian event, was it?
No, this is a very popular location for Christians to go to. That's quite incorrect. Christians have been going to the same park to celebrate Easter for generation after generation. We're talking about 30 to 40 years. It's a well-known visiting spot for Christians.
But there were many Muslims there. In fact, there were more Muslims killed, it's believed, than Christians.
That might be the case, but it's very apparent that Christians would go to a park like this to celebrate Easter during this period, and that's why it was targeted by the Taliban.
Nawaz Sharif is caught between a rock and a hard place, isn't he? I mean, he's got so many militant Islamist groups who are wanting, for example, the blasphemy law to be imposed even more stringently than it is at the moment. There's been rioting today in Islamabad.
Oh, yeah, and yesterday, during this bomb attack, which took away security forces from these other areas. And if you look at that rioting, we're talking about thousands upon thousands. And there's a reason for this. Muslims are easily turned to extremism because Christians and other minorities are caricatured, demonised within the Pakistani national curriculum. Until that national curriculum changes, Christians are going to be seen as wasteful, as satanic, as people who are spies for the West. And that's something that has to be dealt with immediately. And Nawaz Sharif is doing absolutely nothing to change that national curriculum.
Apart from the terrible atrocities that we've seen in Peshawar and we've seen in Lahore, what are the day-to-day persecution or targeting of Christians exists in Pakistan? 700
Christian girls are kidnapped, raped and forced into Islamic marriage. This is a statistic not produced by a Christian group, but a Muslim NGO, the Movement for Solidarity and Peace. And I think we need to take that into context. This is not made-up statistics. 86% of Pakistani Christians work as bonded labourers, as sewage cleaners, or as servants within the households. And the bonded labourers paying off debts of £50 for generation after generation, locked into a contract signed by their grandfather by a thumbprint. Only 7% of Christians attain an adequate level of literacy. So they're blindly signing these contracts, and they don't understand what the contents means to them.
OK, Gulshan Chowdhry, thank you very much indeed for joining us on